Hello and welcome to another edition of Comics and Pop. And before we start, I just want to say that right before the weekend, we all said, hey, let's do a Batman one. Let's do a Batman podcast where we're going to talk about, how the character in the movies has evolved from the Michael Keaton Batman to, the present day and, the Robert Pattinson. So I said, oh, that's going to be great. And I said that's going to be great because, of course, it was my idea. But so everyone else said that'll be great. So this weekend I spent and I watched the two Keaton Batmans, getting all psyched for it. And then this morning they pull the rug out of me. They stage a coup and they say, you know what? Let's not do that one. So I'm like I just feel I'm all in Michael Keaton mode, and now we're doing something else entirely. Just want to throw it out there.
So just for the record, we're not doing the Batman one?
Exactly.
Okay. So what are we talking about, Jonathan?
So today we decided, and this is what the insubordinates came up with, that we decided that the latest Marvel not just Marvel and Sony casting news. My eyes are tearing here. I'm all upset here. I'm crying because of this Michael Keaton thing. So we have the two casting news. We have one, Tenoch, I think Huerta was cast as Namor in the Submariner in the next Black Panther, right? It's going to be a Wakanda Atlantis battle. So he was cast at that, and then Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who already played Quicksilver in the Marvel movies, was just cast as Kraven in a standalone film. It's not even going to be a Spider-Man one. It's going to be a Kraven standalone film. So immediately when I saw both casting news, my initial reaction was, So what do you guys feel right there?
I think they're dropping the ball with a Kraven movie. I think they need to maybe have a 20-minute segue from Kraven into a Spider-Man on a Spider-Man movie. But I think they're trying to do like with Morbius, how they're making just a Morbius movie. And then they're going to do like a Kraven movie. And then maybe they're going to do the rest of the Sinister Six in their own movie and then put them together, sort of like the Avengers, how they all had individual movies first. But I think with Kraven, I wouldn't mind if they just did a little segue, show where he came from. Hey, look, this rich Russian dude that likes to hunt animals and stuff. And now he's going after the big game, Spider-Man. That would be cool. But doing a whole movie, I'm not sure if they've got enough lore to do an entire minute, hour and 45-minute movie, a 2-hour movie.
I am. Go ahead. Yeah, I'll say. Go ahead.
Oh, so I'm glad that we're gonna break them down. I guess we'll do Kraven first.
Let's do Kraven first. Yeah.
Right, because even though I'm, I have my whole Batman spiel ready, I figured I have something to say about this. I mean, obviously Sony's trying to make money, right? So they're trying to milk this as much as they can, and the whole Spider-Man has so many characters and so many villains that you can make movies out of. That they're going to take full advantage of that, and obviously the Sinister Six. And the good thing about the Spider-Man villains is that a lot of the Spider-Man villains are kind of like anti-heroes. Some of them have become anti-heroes, like Venom. Venom was a villain, now he's kind of like a hero. Kraven, they're going to do the same thing. He's going to be a villain, but he's going to be like a hero. Punisher, right? Punisher was came out in Amazing Spider-Man 129. He was a villain, vigilante, superhero now. So he's got a lot of these villains that are kind of like become folklore anti-heroes. So I can understand why they want to cash in on that. But again, my issue with it is that since Sony is separate from the Marvel universe, is that they're doing their standalone movies and they're not really giving you the true origin of the characters. You can't have these characters and not have Spider-Man associated with it. So I'm hoping that at least with the Kraven movie, they have some kind of association with Spider-Man. Now that Marvel and Sony are kind of working together, you gotta have some kind of an association, especially if you're gonna do a Sinister Six movie. What are they gonna have? Sinister Six movie, and he's gonna fight what, Batman or something? These are freaking Spider-Man villains. So it's definitely something that it really irks me. But I really hope that that now that they're working with Marvel, that they do it right. As far as Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I love him as Quicksilver. But yeah, he's Quicksilver, man. He's not he's Quicksilver, and he's what do you call it? He's not Kraven the Hunter, man. Kraven the Hunter is a Russian. He's a Russian.
He can't do accents. I mean, he can't do accents. He did an accent in the Avengers movie. But
Yeah.
I can do a Russian accent, Doc. But you're not gonna cast me
That was great.
as Kraven the freaking Hunter. I look Mexican, dude. I mean, we'll talk about the Submariner. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit because I have something to say about that one too. But the whole Kraven the Hunter. I mean, I actually I don't know. Do you guys watch Vikings?
No, I haven't seen it. I heard it's great though. I really heard that's a great show.
It's really good, dude. And I wrote this down because this guy's name, man. His name is, you got to look him up. His name is Danila Kozlovsky. And he plays Oleg of Novgorod on Vikings.
Right.
And this dude is Kraven the Hunter. He is, I mean, if you look at him, he is Kraven the freaking Hunter. He's got the long hair, the beard, big, he's Kraven. He's Russian. I mean, this guy would have been perfect, the perfect casting for this.
I have to look at
it just drives me crazy.
Well,
and by the way,
yeah, there we go. Let's see it.
Since we're comics and pop, I mean, I don't have Amazing Spider-Man 15 because I'm not a millionaire, and right now that book is like, going for $15,000 and up. But I do have one of the earlier appearances, number 7. How sweet is that? Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. I love this cover, classic cover.
Well, here we go. To me, I agree with both of you. Like Sony's obviously milking this. Sony is going to take whatever they can out of Spider. Like in my mind, also they're kind of like even thumbing their nose at Marvel. Like hey, we're going to do whatever we want. We have the contract. We have the the rights to Spider-Man. We're going to do whatever the hell we want, and we're not going to ask you for permission. We're even going to take one of your heroes. We're going to take one of your characters, Quicksilver, and we're going to put him as as Quicksilver. But to me, always. And I agree with Troy on this. Kraven, up until one point, Kraven was just always like kind of a joke, to me at least. He was like a joke villain. He was like, the funny, like, how can he really, tangle with Spider-Man? He doesn't have superpowers. He's just a guy that does, he does hunting. How can he really compete? That all changed with the last Hunt, comic. I think they took that character and they made him like a real viable villain, right? Like,
right.
They gave him a redemption story. They gave him this, they made him something something serious, something that, that was to me is like one of the top Marvel storylines. That Kraven's Last Hunt, that was one of the best Marvel stories that I've ever read. So up until that point, I never took Kraven seriously. That changed for me. So, but again, he's with Spider-Man. Like you guys just said, he's with Spider-Man. Why should we start watching this standalone film? It ruins it. It dilutes it. Not having him involved with the hero he's associated with.
Yeah. When I heard that the Quicksilver was going to be Kraven, immediately his catchphrase popped in my mind, and I'm thinking I didn't see that coming. And I'm thinking, it's just like the movie. I didn't see it coming. What are they doing with that? He's not. He can't be Kraven. He's not. When I think about Kraven, I think about a great big dude that will beat the brakes off of like 20 people at a bus stop. Somebody that you would look at and you would say, wow, that's a big dude. But then he would just start slaughtering people and you're like, oh my God. And you start running. To me, that's Kraven. Now against regular people, he's a lunatic maniac that could kill a room full of people. Against Spider-Man, I'm thinking he's a dude with a gun. He had a dart gun at one time and kept trying to tranquilize him. And I'm thinking, you got a dart gun against Spider-Man? That's not going to work. He can throw a bus at you. So I didn't, like you said, he was kind of like a joke character because he was a hunter that was hunting Spider-Man. And I think Marvel at one point looked and said, you know what? We can do better.
Right.
And I think that's where the character Puma came from. The guy that, the Indian guy that would like meditate and become like the were Puma and fight him. I was like, that's an upgrade for Kraven. He's a hunter too. He's tracking Spider-Man because he wants to track the toughest guy. And I'm like, okay, well, if I evolved Kraven, it would be this guy. And that's why I always thought about Puma. So he became one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. When Sony announced that they had the idea to do the Kraven standalone, they also announced that they had 900 Spider-Man related characters that they owned. And I'm thinking 900? That's what they got to be talking about, like support cast and stuff. How they're milking, like you said, they're milking these movies, but it's going to turn into like X-Men, where it's all about Wolverine plus a bunch of other dudes. The next movie, it's in the future. It's Wolverine plus a bunch of other dudes. Hey, there's giant robots. It's Wolverine and a bunch of robots. It's going to turn into that thing, except they don't have their Wolverine. They don't have Spider-Man, So it's going to be like a bunch of other dudes.
At some point, Disney's just going to get tired of this and just say, "Okay, we're gonna buy your company." That's it.
I mean, they really have to. They really have to, man. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned Wolverine because I was just reading actually something before that. I think Weapon X just got optioned.
Oh, I read that too. Yes.
Look out for that. That's going to be awesome. Now, as far as like Kraven not having any superpowers, neither does the Punisher. Punisher doesn't have any superpowers. He's got guns, right? So, so I mean, a lot of these heroes, when they pick them to fight, obviously hand-to-hand combat, Spider-Man, is a super, he's got superpowers. He's not going to, be able to defeat this guy, just like, if you have a Superman fighting Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor doesn't have any superpowers, so it's kind of like, I understand that point of view, but like the whole Kraven the Hunter, to me, it's more of the casting, man. How can you cast this guy as Kraven the Hunter? I mean, I don't have anything against him. The kid's a good actor. I've seen him in a lot of movies. He was awesome as Quicksilver, right? But it's like, it's just I think that Marvel should make they should make the actors that sign on to play superheroes maybe sign like an exclusive contract that they're not allowed
with
to
other
play
heroes
elsewhere. You know what I mean? Because it kind of messes up the whole, continuity of what they're trying to do.
Then again, Marvel took Chris Evans, who was, the Human Torch, and they put him into Captain America. So
right, but Fantastic Four, right? But that wasn't that Fantastic Four. That wasn't under the Marvel universe.
Right,
you know what I mean?
They did it in reverse, right?
Huh?
Right, they did it in reverse.
Michael John White, B. Jordan.
Right.
He was the Human Torch too.
Yep.
And then,
Yep.
Right, but again, they came from something. They came from something that was garbage into what God was meant to be. So it's like it's just. I mean, I'm like I said. I mean, when it comes to superhero movies, I'm watching them all. With an open mind. It's just Marvel really needs to figure something out, man, because this is getting annoying.
I'll say this though. The only thing that I will say is that I'm more willing to give Marvel the benefit of the doubt with casting. We'll get to that and say, every time, certain times you see like someone that gets cast in a role, you think, oh no, and then they do a great job. Not just Marvel. I mean, certain people, like, when I remember when Heath Ledger as the Joker, everyone was like, oh, that's gonna be terrible, and he was just fantastic. And Michael Keaton, that's bad when he was cast.
Right.
Everyone was like saying that's gonna be awful, and Michael Keaton was all lucky that he was never put into like the Twitter universe at that time. But I'm willing to give Marvel much more the benefit of the doubt than I am with Sony. So we'll see what happens with that casting.
It's funny that you mentioned the Michael Keaton thing because we should do a Batman podcast.
I'm not interested.
That's an idea. That's an idea.
I have no desire.
The thing about the Punisher not having superpowers, I mean, he was a Marine. So he kind of had superpowers. He kind of had superpowers.
Simplify.
I think the Kraven movie, I'm hoping for something big, and Kraven, as far as translating it, like with Batman, if you think about Batman, He's just some rich dude that's hitting the people in the face with a weird shaped boomerang, right? Basically. So, but they made him, he's epic in the movies. When you think about superhero movies, before the revamp for like the Marvel stuff, is Batman. Batman was the best out there. So I'm thinking they could take somebody like Kraven, who doesn't necessarily have superhuman abilities or anything like that, and they could Batman him. And they could make him, dangerous and threatening and powerful and a threat to anybody. They could do that. But I think they're going to drop the ball, and I feel really bad because I had hopes for him. For years I was like, okay, yeah, here comes, they're going to do Kraven. They're introducing the Sinister Six. They got to do Kraven the Hunter. And they've been holding back on him. So I was like, oh, they got good ideas. They're just sitting there with pens and paper, room full of people. In my mind, there's like a room full of 50 and 60 and 70-year-old dudes who probably are too old to be doing that, but sitting around in these nice suits.
Well,
and
that's us,
But we know this stuff. They should hire us.
There you go.
We get it right. We freaking get it right.
Well, let's transition. Let's go to part two of our little. Since we all feel the same way about Kraven, let's go into part two here. The casting of Tenoch Huerta as the Submariner. And I'll be honest, and there's nothing against him as an actor. First my very first reaction was, who? And then I had to start looking at I really, really disappointed. Again, like I said, I'm giving Marvel the benefit of the doubt, but there are so many other actors that you could see as the Submariner. I'm hoping this works out. I'm willing to give Marvel the benefit of the doubt, like we said, but I was a little disappointed. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt with this.
So, you want to go first? Go ahead, buddy.
I don't think he's big enough. I don't think he's big. Now, honestly, Michael Keaton's a little dude. Batman's a big, muscular, human perfection type guy, but he pulled it off. So maybe, and Hugh Jackman is 1.5 feet taller than what Wolverine would be. So maybe if the acting is good, you can, kind of fudge what they look like. But I think I looked at pictures of him because I didn't know who he was. I looked at his pictures and he's a small dude, and I don't know, Namor has got to be bigger than me. And that guy's half my size. So I'm thinking, really? Namor? Nah, I don't think so, man. But it's just the size. I think he's too small. He must be an incredible actor.
That must be it.
So I surprisingly have a lot to say about this casting, since it wasn't my idea to do this podcast. I wanted to do the Batman one, so I really do have a lot to say about this. So Tenoch Huerta, his mama calls him Tenoch, but called Tenoch. He was in Narcos, man, and Narcos is like one of my favorite Netflix shows. He was in the Mexican version of Narcos. He played Rafael Caro Quintero, who was like one of the founders of the one of the original Mexican Godfathers, whatever, right? So I loved him. He's a excellent actor. This kid is amazing. He's a really good actor. As far as his size is concerned, when I look at like the original Namor, his first appearance was in Fantastic Four #4, right? He when he first came into it, so like his history is with the Fantastic Four, which is also Black Panther's history, because Black Panther's first appearance was also in the Fantastic Four, right? But since we don't have a Fantastic Four in the Marvel universe, and we already have Black Panther introduced, and I guess they're going to bring him into the Black Panther movie. When he first came out, when his first appearance, he kind of like when he came to, I think he kind of like had a little fling with in The Invisible Girl.
Right, true story. Right.
And I mean, if you looked at him, when you're talking about size, Troy, he wasn't really like, they didn't draw him as a big dude back then. He was pretty much the same size as 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 Mr. Fantastic and as the Human Torch. I mean, as it developed and he grew, you kind of they made him muscular and stuff. Obviously, right? Because obviously, he's like he's wearing like pretty much a baby suit the whole time. Exactly.
The guy's in a Speedo.
Exactly. He's wearing a Speedo. So, it's kind of like Aquaman, right? Aquaman, he was a muscular, he was a regular dude, but in the movies he's freaking 6'4" and a Samoan now, right? So, so it's a whole different animal. So he's to me, Submariner is one of my favorite characters, man, because he came out around the same time that Iron Man came out, and actually one of my favorite comics, since this is comics and pop, is this came out before Iron Man and Submariner #1 came out. They had Iron Man and Submariner #1, and then right after this you had Iron Man #1, and then you had Submariner #1. So at being an Iron Man fan as a kid, this was like one of my grails to have this comic book, because this was this predated the two #1s of each one of those issues, so they can have their own series. So I'm a big Submariner guy, but again, my beef it's always been with the creative licensing to introduce people into the Marvel universe, and obviously you can't always do it the way it's done in the comic books because of different things. Like we said, Black Panther first appeared in the Fantastic Four. There is no Fantastic Four in the Marvel universe, so now we have Black Panther. Same thing with Submariner. He first appeared in the Fantastic Four. There is no Fantastic Four, so you have to introduce him in a different way. So Submariner's a mutant, as far as I know. I think isn't he considered like one of the first mutants? Am I wrong on this, Troy?
They called him the first mutant for a long time until they introduced N. Sabbath Noir and said that he was the first.
Right.
But they said he was the first mutant for a long time.
He was the first mutant for a long time. So in a way, is this kind of like an introduction to mutants to the Marvel universe? Maybe bringing them in that way, So that could be an introduction of mutants to the Marvel universe. So that kind of opens up, the world to mutants and maybe the X-Men coming in as well. So I'm really excited about that. Now, as far as Raphael,
we've already had like Quicksilver and Wanda and the Scarlet Witch there, but they didn't call them mutants.
They didn't call them mutants. Right. They were more like they didn't really.
They called them wonders.
Right. They didn't really tie them into the whole mutant universe. So
with the mutants thing, if I can interject for 1 second with the mutant thing, something that I researched earlier, we did the Eternals. It was a week before last. We did the Eternals,
right?
And there's a scene. It's only like 4 or 5 seconds, but there's a scene where they show a kid, and I saw another guy do his show, and he slowed it down. And there's a kid when the ship comes that's standing there, having a contact with the Eternals. His ears are pointed, and they're saying that he's a young Namor, because they're saying that the Atlanteans and the Eternals have a little bit of a beef. I don't know what it is yet, but they're saying that they're going to possibly introduce Namor as a youth, then
and
interesting
adult man in the Wakandan thing. So I'm thinking that's kind of interesting. That would be cool. So with that, because they're supposed to. There's always this stuff, the mutants are going to show up in this one. The mutants are going to show up in that one. The mutants are supposed to show up in Black Widow, and then the mutants are supposed to show up in the Eternals and everything. But if they introduce Namor, even as a kid, there, because I watched it like 7 times, and he did have pointed ears, but he could have been an Eternal that I don't know that's got pointed ears. Oh, but or a deviant or something. But that was somebody's theory on there, and I was like, that's interesting. So if they introduce them there, that would make sense, because the Eternals were supposed to be like the split from man. You had the deviant, the Eternals, the humans, and then eventually the mutant. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to stick them in there. That could happen.
Before you get back to Carlos, I just want to say that Eternals trailer got killed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They got killed. They said all the things. We never thought anything was important to get to interfere until now. Right? Thanos was okay. Just let Thanos do what he wants. This is the important thing now. So.
Yeah.
Good,
Right,
Carlos.
exactly. None of them got snapped during the
Right. Yes.
during they were good. They had nothing to
Good.
So yeah. So what you're saying actually, that would be great if. But I wonder if because if you think about it, if the Eternals have been around forever, they obviously they would know of the Submariner and Atlantis, right? And they would know of Wakanda, and they would know of everything that's going on in this world. So how could they not know about Atlantis? So that would definitely
It'd be
make
cool if they had something to do with Atlantis sinking. That would be cool.
That would be nice.
That could be cool. That could be cool. You're right. Exactly. That could be cool. So, and another beef that I kind of have a little bit of a personal beef here is Tenoch Huerta is Mexican, right? And he's playing the Submariner, which kind of comes from the ocean, right? So, and he's Mexican. And the ocean, wetback. What's going on here? Is this some kind of a racist thing going on here? Was this a racist casting?
That's exactly what they were doing.
But I'm actually, you know what? I think I like the kid as he's a really good actor, man. I mean, I'm a fan of his, and I'm really optimistic about this. It's actually one of the castings that I wasn't like, it doesn't seem weird because I actually know who the guy is. It wasn't like somebody out of left field. So I'm kind of excited about this casting.
Would you say that the majority of the people when they saw this casting had to go look up the IMDb credits to see where this kid's from? I mean.
Absolutely. It's right, but like I said, I knew who he is, so I felt good about it, and like I said, the fact that that it's a Mexican actor, but at the same time, what is Namor? He doesn't really have a nationality. He's from Atlantis, right? So he doesn't. So it could be huh?
If Atlantis was a continent in the Pacific, it's under the Pacific Ocean. Then it would be a Pacific island or a Pacific continent.
We don't know where.
We don't really know
all these locations.
Right. But I'm saying, but it was his own continent, so it doesn't have, and there's no nationality for it. You know what I mean? There's not like they're Atlanteans. That's their nationality, right? So we don't. What does an Atlantean look like? The only thing that we know is that they have pointy ears. Yeah. We don't really know anything else, right? They can breathe underwater, right? So.
So it's going to be really upsetting that that the Black Panther himself is not in this movie. I mean, that would have been like really exciting.
For him to fight the Black Panther would have been awesome.
Absolutely
awesome. And I really want to know actually how he grew all the pot and cocaine fields in Atlantis and stuff. Underwater. That's if it was hydroponics or how they did it and stuff. I think you're going to be getting our show canceled before we. and thank you for watching the last episode of Comics.
Well, if you think about it, thinking about the burning of plants, they destroyed all of the sacred herb, right? Mm-hmm. So nobody can have the power of the Black Panther through the herb. But in the comic book, the herb existed, but they got their power from Bast, from the cat god. So I'm thinking they must be introducing a series of gods because they got to introduce Bast in order for Shuri or whoever to get the power now. And they've got to introduce, what's his name, Khonshu or whatever, the sun god for Moon Knight. And, they got to introduce the old god. Yeah, that's going to be so good. They got to introduce the old gods for the new Doctor Strange Part 2. They're going to have a bunch of gods. They got the Eternals. They got a bunch of gods coming up, I think.
How do you guys feel about that Moon Knight casting? Since we're talking about castings.
I got to go look up. I don't even remember who it was. So
it was the kid from Star Wars, from the Star Wars movie.
Isaac guy, right?
He was Apocalypse.
Okay. That one I could see. I could see that. I don't know. I can see that one. It's much more.
He was Apocalypse. He was in Star Wars movies.
Yeah, he ought to be good. I like that guy. He ought to be good. And they're going with the more modern version where he actually is crazy.
Yeah.
So that ought to be interesting. I'm wondering if they're going to do what is it, Mr. Nice with the white suit. and the mask, if they're going to do that version of Moon Knight, or is he just going to be the guy in the cape?
They're gonna do a whole bunch of things from what I read.
Oscar Isaac.
Stuff.
Oscar Isaac is Moon Knight. Yeah, no, I did like. I was very looking forward to that. I'm gonna just go back to Black Panther. I think Marvel. Look, I understand Marvel and Disney are trying to honor, Chadwick Boseman. I understand all that. I think they're making a huge mistake, not just recasting the part and just saying, this is the Black Panther. Just because it's such a great character that we're just now going to just not use, really. I mean, I know they're going to try a variation of it, but that's not what I don't want a variation of it. I want that hero in the universe.
Know what? I think that eventually they probably will recast it, but since they've already, kind of like went with the route of they're not going to recast and they're going to have
put themselves in a hole, right? They put themselves in a hole. And they're kind of going with that whole theme also. They're going to have what's her name, Jane as the female Thor now. They're going to be introducing, I'm pretty sure, Riri Williams as Iron Man. Who's going to be a teenage black girl Iron Man. So they're going to be. I think they want to explore that whole aspect of it as well. But I think eventually they'll recast it. I think just maybe because it just happened. So it was so hard hitting. This guy dying was it hit so hard that I think that maybe they might wait maybe 10 years or something. But eventually I think they'll recast it.
I have two thoughts on that. One about the recasting. I thought about it. If they do recast him, they could do something comical so that they can kind of gloss over it, like have a new guy, and then like Cap or somebody says, "Hey, you look different," and he can go, "I shaved," and then just leave it alone, and then just ignore it, right? And then he's like, "Oh, okay, okay," and then just like never say and mention it again. And then the second thing, I think they're going to go with something to pull on the heartstrings, like something powerful, like when Thor was getting beaten, and then all of a sudden the hammer starts to rise, and Cap's got it, and the audience was like, "Ah!" Or when
the audience,
when Spider-Man grabs Iron Man and he's crying, and because Iron Man's dead, and the audience is like, "Ah!" I think they're going to do something where Namor is Dustin Sherry or whoever, and then all of a sudden somebody steps in to help him, and it's Killraider or Killmonger. Killmonger.
Yes,
he's going to show up, I think, and that'll be like a sentimental thing. That'll be a thing for them because they'll be like, "Oh, hey, he's back, but he's good, but we like him, but he's good now." It'll be something like that.
But everybody liked him. That's one of the things about Killmonger is like, even though he died, like in the end, like a lot of people kind of like identified with him, and they were like sad to see him die, and they really liked that character,
Yeah. Like I said last time, they can bring him back. I mean,
well, that's comics. You can bring anyone back. I mean,
you can bring anyone back.
Right, exactly.
Listen, Christopher Reeve died, and we've had 87 Superman.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the point. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
although Christopher Reeve was still the best one, but anyway.
Absolutely.
When they shot an agent in the back in the spine, and he's laying there dying, and they're like, "We got to move him." So they took him and somehow got him through customs with a bullet in his back, or they flew with their own jet and flew all the way back to Africa, which is not down the street. Flew all the way there, took him to the hospital, pulled the bullet out, and saved his life. That dude, Killmonger, got stabbed like right outside the door of one of their facilities. They just walked him down the street. So there's no way he's dead. There's no way he got stabbed.
And he got stabbed, and he got stabbed with the Black Panther powers. He wasn't some regular dude, right? Panther. So that's what I'm saying. He was already a superhero when he got stabbed. So I'm pretty sure he could survive that.
Well, it looks like that's all the time that we have for this week. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about these casting choices and which movie you're looking forward to. And we'd love to hear from you. And again, please subscribe. Thank you. And this has been Comics and Pop.
Sorry.